Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions, where we are critical, not cynical, of the music we listen to. I'm your host, Bryan, and today we're going to do a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly the song you want me to check out, and I do it. If you have your own song that you would like to suggest for special selections, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's comes at us from Charles, says, I'm requesting Repeater by King Buffalo. So let's dive into this. No context going in. All I know is we have some pretty trippy album art, and it is almost 14 minutes long. So let's see what King Buffalo is bringing to the table today. Dang, we got some sub bass right off the bat. Just a massive sound. We've not even a minute in yet, I think. Oh, we just hit a minute in. And this is just offbeat hi-hat hits. Getting real heavy in that groove there. That's fun. It's just very, it started out rather large, but now it's just kind of devolved into like a journey. I love those little bass licks at the end of the phrase to sort of punctuate it and bring us back into the beginning of the loop. I like how the guitar, just very light, while our bass is what drives us. An interesting swap of roles. Usually our guitar drives us and our bass is rather sparse. Yeah, the little embellishing lines from our guitar in the previous section. The song's just really taking its time, fully exploring this one sounds. Yeah. Still really laid back though, lots of space in between the licks. It's just letting this lead guitar line breathe. I like the new bass idea. It's got these 16th notes into the 8th notes. Yeah, letting the fuzz naturally diminish out. Yeah, really interesting to pull in a second guitar now off on the left. Oh, that bass line was so good. What happened? Oh, that's actually a really slick effect right there. Yeah, they really enjoy just sitting in these moments. We got a small build up here. Coming in with all the clipping. Yeah, utilizing the snare to have some emphasis between the tom fills. Yeah, gotta bring that original bass back. Interestingly, that ending was also the one that we heard at the beginning of the track, and it does feel like it goes into the next one. I wonder if it connects to the one previous as well. Well, actually, it won't because this is the first track of the album. Maybe it can connect to the last track. Maybe they're all connected by this wavy electronic sounds, and it makes a cyclical track. I mean, a cyclical album. It is called Repeater. The album is as well, not just the title of the song. Um, but what's really cool is that the intro and outro kind of merge well with what's going on in this track. They have this wavy mirage kind of thing going on to them. And a lot of the stoner rock sections of this track gave me, walking through a desert kind of vibe. So, like a mirage at the beginning and end of the song could definitely really lean into that same visual that the song presents to me. But I don't really. I mean, that's really the only connection I have between our intro and outro and the core song. And even that is very loosely, if at all, connected to our heavier moment that doesn't really feel like stoner rock. You guys are going to have to hit me up on this. Let me know what kind of music is being paired with our calmer, cooler, laid back moment. Or moments, I should say. Because that heavy stuff, I mean, that came out of nowhere. And I guess that's what we really got to talk about here. The song has two modes if we exclude the intro and outro. Um, and we look at what the meat of the song is, we have our very laid back stoner rock section. Very sparse guitar work, a driving bass line, simple drums, and very laid back vocals. Lots of reverb as well, kind of lends it to that stoner kind of thing going on. Lots of reverb. Actually, the more I think about it, yeah, I think the bass and the drums were the only ones that didn't get reverb put on. And maybe maybe there was some, it just wasn't as I don't want to say egregious, as strong of an effect as the vocals and guitars had on them, which was just the guitar strummed, and you continue to hear the strum for like the rest of the bar. Just a very, very huge, or maybe that's a delay with the reverb on it on top of that. Um, but just a lot of this, well, kind of tying back into that Mirage vibe that we had in our intro. There is one, but there are many. And the many have something just slightly off about them, which in this case for the music, it's that the voice the volume of the guitar hit continues to diminish with each repetition of each echo, so to speak. Um, but aside from this, well, I mean, there's also like a third part, kind of. It's the guitar solos before we get into the heavy moment. And these just kind of lend themselves into jam sessions. The music underneath doesn't really change from our stoner rock moment, but the first time we do have a clean electric guitar doing a solo, and it has these really nice embellishing ideas. We're gonna touch on that when I want to talk specifically about that solo. The second solo, though, we get a distorted guitar, a bit of grit. Continues on a little bit in this sparse ornamental idea, but also pushes into the width and power of this distorted guitar sound. And of course, this allows us to transition into the heavier section, which still retains, I think, the clean guitar and the clean bass underneath, but they're just so drowned out a majority of the time that you can't hear them, because I think there is an electric, or not a distorted bass and a distorted guitar on top of it now. I think. I might have to go back and check that out. I'm pretty sure both the original sounds and the new distorted ones exist in most of the heavier sections. And the heavier sections are really predicated on and composed of suspended tones and suspended notes through really big, massive, wide tones. There are some moving ideas, specifically, as usual, coming from the bass or whatever the lower end instrument is. It could as well just be a guitar with an extra string on it in the lower end. It continues to drive us. It gives us that momentum, that energy, the moving phrase. Even if it is just one note, it has the movement to it. We have eighth notes rather than the suspended whole and half notes. Um, and it acts not just as a parallel to the chill of our stoner rock section, but also compositionally, where that one is mostly moving ideas. We do have that the chord that gets strummed in our guitar, but once we hit the solo section, our guitar has these little quick 16th note runs that are used ornamentally, and our bass is just constantly driving forward with this rhythmic pulse that gets punctuated at the end of every phrase before looping back, utilizing a series of eighth notes. There is movement to all of this. There's very little lingering sound. Well, there's very few notes that are held out. And when we get to the heavy section, it's really what it's all about is holding out notes above a little bit of the movement still coming from the bass. Um, it is the exact opposite rhythmically, it is the exact opposite tonally and widthwise as our stoner rock section. And this is where, at least to me, the meat of the track exists, is the contrast between these two styles of music and how they work together to tell a specific story. But before we dig into that, we gotta touch on these solos real quick. The first solo, like I mentioned, had these really neat ornamental ideas. The guitar would play, like 4 or 5 notes, and then just like let the solo breathe and come back in and play like 8 or 9 notes and then let the solo breathe. And it's always about putting in a little bit of energy and then allowing that energy to exist without disregarding it, tossing it into the past, allowing it to still resonate with the present. Um, it is a beautiful guitar solo. I love it. It is just laid back enough that it sometimes doesn't feel like a solo, but does have enough energy at times to say, yeah, I am the spotlit melody. I am taking it a bit lax. Not always playing, but it allows the solo to breathe in a way that feels very natural. And I really enjoy that take because it works so well with the vibe and atmosphere they've created. It is a really laid back song, especially up to this point. Even the vocals feel very effortless, just like the dude is speaking, but instead of having abrupt stops, decides to hold out notes at times. Even right there, I could have just said times, or I did say times, it just, stop. But he could have said times, just kind of hold it out. And that's what it feels like. It's just a very relaxed, comfortable vocal range for our vocalist. And that mixed with a little bit of reverb on it that kind of gives it a double sound. Fits well with the whole mirage thing and walking through the desert. And the atmosphere of it all is just very journey like. Just going on an adventure, but not a dangerous adventure, not a. Like a role playing game kind of adventure, but just doing something out of the ordinary. Maybe you've never walked past this part of town before, and um, so you've decided to go over there. You're not far from home, you're not in danger, you're not on an epic quest, but it's still adventurous. It's something new, it's something you've never done before. And that's what it feels like. It's bright horizons, is what I get out of the opening, like 5 or 6 minutes of this track. And the laid back guitar solo with bits of flourish to it lean really hard into that, and I just think it's a phenomenal pairing there. So I was going to compare and contrast our two sections. I've already broken down our stoner rock section. What's going on in our metal section? Honestly, I'm at a little bit loss of words here. I know what's happening musically, technically. Our instruments come in and we have more layers. We have two guitars, two basses now. We don't have any vocals in this section. Our guitars are overdriven. They have overdrive and compression, and the guitar itself constantly clips. Um, it is really pushing the volume level. In fact, in the first time it came in, and closer there to the end, I don't remember specifically what section it was, but it was one of the times when we went back to the stoner rock and we began to reintroduce the metal guitar sounds. It dominates. I thought the song was fairly loud in the stoner rock part. When the metal guitars come in, it is loud. And I actually turned my volume down. That is not something that happens. If anything, I tend to turn my volume up as we go through the song, as I acclimate to the volume and I want to hear more of the details. Especially since my equipment is a bit on the lower end, it tends to have more definition at higher volumes. Um, but here I actually turned it down. The song got too loud for me. And it's because of those guitars. It's because of the guitar and the bass and the compression and the overdrive and the distortion on it all, and just the sheer volume. So much so that, like I mentioned, the guitar clips. It goes above the. I actually don't know the technical definition of clip. I know it's when your input source is louder than something can handle. It could be your audio interface, it could be your audio workstation, but anyways, it's too loud of a signal and some of the quality of the sound gets removed. It's too much for something to handle. It could be hardware, it could be software. And this could also be digital clipping as well. I'm pretty sure that you can use effects in an audio workstation to emulate a clipping as well, or emulate an analog clipping. But either way, the guitar sound hits a ceiling, and instead of having dynamic qualities to the width of it, it kind of flattens out, and it's only key moments too. So it makes me think that this was something in the patch line, not something that was. Or something in the recording process, not something that was done later in the audio workstation, and they left it in, but it absolutely works. This is so monstrous that the sound itself, the MP3 file or the video, whatever you want to think of it that way, can't contain the sound and it begins to break through. It's too large, it's too massive. And that goes along very well with just the overall feeling of these instruments. And especially when you compare it to the guitars that exist under it, the cleaner ones, and they just get drowned out. It's wild for me to go from thinking, yeah, this is at a nice volume, and you add one or two instruments, and you're like, no, this is too loud. It was nice before. It was actually maybe a little too loud before. Um, I mean, just the volume dynamics, the sheer volume dynamics between these two sections is massive. And it's really neat how they explored that in two ways. I believe the first time the heavy guitar just came in, beat one of the new bar, we have this heavy guitar, it's loud, it's in charge, it's dominating the sound now. But the second time, it faded in. And actually, after the first time when we went back down to the stoner rock section, it faded out. We just had that feedback. And that also kind of ties into this, that the sound is so massive that there is just this buzzing under it all. If you don't even play the guitar, you don't strum a single string, you still have this fuzz, this vibration underneath. It is so massive. It has its own sound floor that shines through in the song and even dominates a bit of the clean instruments. I'm really curious what the song is about for them musically, but also we'll get into the lyrics in a bit. Because now that I've talked my way through this, the way that I see this is someone just kind of going about their day, real chill, real laid back, and every once in a while, this immovable, massive person or thing or hurdle, it could be metaphorical, it could be physical, gets in their way and forces them to do something. It could force them to feel small, which I think would have a very direct relationship to the music, but it could also just impede their happiness. It could impede their chill, it could harsh their mellow. um, any of these ideas of just this monstrous element outside of the narrator's control that makes their life more difficult. And maybe even another reading could be that it dominates their life. It becomes a core stressor that they can't stop thinking about kind of vibe, where even when they are not actively present, they are still symbolically present inside the mind. You can't stop thinking about this hurdle, this person, this whatever. I don't know how that ties back into repeater though, the title of the track, other than the fact that it keeps coming back. Um, and sometimes it sneaks up on you. Oh, yeah. So, like, the more I think about this metaphor, the more I really like it. Makes me want to write my own song based off of this concept of having control of your life and losing control at times, and having that element that causes you to lose the control or lose your happiness or whatever, uh, still kind of resonate within the mind. Man, that's such a good theme. Uh, and I think it's so appropriate to today too. This was released in 2018, so I think, being culturally relevant 4 years later, while 4 years seems like a long time, especially in internet years, in real life years, a lot of the things we're dealing with today are still things that we dealt with 5 and even 10 years ago. They're just sort of exacerbated now. So, I mean, to say that it's still culturally relevant, it's not like it's an old track. Yeah, I don't think. I guess we're gonna get into the lyrics. Is there anything that else I wanted to mention? Because the repetition. The song is called Repeater. I didn't really think that that was going to tie into the structure of the track, but I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it has nothing to do with that, and this is just their standard style of writing. But there's a lot of repetition in here. You have to really enjoy what they're doing because there's kind of just one underlying idea that gets minor variations on, and a secondary idea, which is our metal guitars, that gets put on top of it every so often. But that's still technically a variation on our core concept that the song is introduced on. If you're not here for that chill, laid back stoner vibe, you've got a couple of moments in here that you might work well with, the heavier moments, but other than that, there's not much for you. And, as for me in this situation of critically listening to it, I ended up just kind of closing my eyes and trying to vibe with it a few times because there honestly was not much going on change wise that was um, having me reassess what I thought of the song or new information that I can use to create talking points for the analysis or to understand what the song is doing or anything like that. It does one thing very well for 14 minutes. um, so it's one of those tracks you got to really vibe with. And if you don't, it might be time to hit skip or maybe even go to a different album because assuming that this would be King Buffalo style, then the whole album would probably be like this. But yeah, it's a lot of one thing. You really got to be here for it. So, the repetition, the tone, the contrast, and some of the licks. I think I hit them all. Yeah, so let's dig into some lyrics. Go on, you wandering one. Well, I mean, I got the wandering thing. Let's see where this goes. So, every day through the storm, pass on and look for the stone, turning the steel to gold. Dig on and bury the sun. Every day is the same. No time to lighten the yield. Every day is the same. Okay. So we have somebody wandering through the stone, wandering through the storm, looking for the stone that would turn steel to gold. So, metaphorically speaking, here, the Midas stone, um, and it almost seems like they are going through hardships trying to find something that would bring them riches. Or maybe not even riches, but just some ease in life. It says, bury the sun, because no time to lighten the yield. Every day is the same. I'm not sure what the burying the sun is about, but this person has weight on their shoulders. There's no time to lighten the yield, and every day is the same. That's repeated twice here. Actually, it's repeated. Every other stanza has it as lines 2 and 4. This is a core theme right here. So tying this back to what the music told me, though, we haven't quite hit what our metaphorical hurdle is, but there's definitely, oh man, even the stoner thing, just kind of being laid back, might not necessarily represent someone's chill or mellow, but just the mundanity of life. There isn't really any motivation to get through things, just kind of dragging along. And I kind of took that for like a lackadaisical kind of view, just being really laid back. But maybe it's a lack of motivation because you wake up, you go to work, you cook your dinner, you watch your procedural television show or whatever popular show it is so you can tweet about it later, and then you go to bed. And you wake up the next day and you do the same thing. And the day after that. Which, going back to the first stanza, would almost put this search for the stone as a purpose of life. It brings purpose to this person, meaning. It's not just about surviving and living anymore, but about finding something that can do good. Maybe even just for yourself, maybe for everyone. Hold on, you aching one, beaten and bruised and tired. Carry on and keep on and carry the steel every day through the fire. Yeah, so we have somebody who's just completely beaten down, possibly by life, because every day's the same. Says keep on and carry the steel. So keep fighting, keep surviving every day through the fire. Broken fingers tend to the field. Every day is the same. Nothing left but leather and bone. Every day is the same. So, yeah, going back to this idea of just working, right? Working endlessly with broken fingers. I mean, it doesn't get much more on the nose than that. Hold on, you withering one, wasted and empty and dry. No time to tend to the fire, baiting the life from your eye. Left mangled, feeble, and gray. Every day was the same, how the years have wasted away everything into the flame. So, yeah, it seems to be about somebody who wasted their life working tirelessly, presumably for someone else, with little gain in return. And at the end of their life, they kind of looked back and just figured they wasted it. They wanted so much more, they wanted a purpose. And never happened. And maybe that's the antagonism. I mean, I could just be injecting a little of myself in here, but this could be seen as an anti-capitalist. Well, anti-late stage capitalism, anyways, of hustle culture, work culture, overworking culture, all of that wrapped up into one where people basically don't have much lives to live anymore. You just work, 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 and then you die. Hope you like it. So, yeah, it's interesting how the lyrics change some of my perspective on the music. And it also kind of reaffirmed a little bit of who this or what this metaphorical power is, this hurdle. And I do think it is, like I said, work culture. just constantly working and it looming overhead. That if you're not productive, then you're not a good person. And maybe that's just a very American view. I know several European countries are really big on work life balance. Maybe this song would not sound the same to them, but that's what it feels like to me. Those are my thoughts on King Buffalo's Repeater. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not, anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to add on to what I said, correct me on, whatever. Let me know. Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has everything related to the channel. You can find all the social medias around the channel. You can also support the channel in a variety of ways, such as Patreon and special selection. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. That wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be checking out our final music inspired by art track and a creator request, which is where a smaller band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their stuff. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. Well, if you're here, you got to see this gaff. Push the wrong button. Alright, now we're going.